Fuck me dead, man. Seriously. Okay, so welcome everybody. You know, we'd gotten to that point by now. Um, so yeah, that was the mime version of Welcome to Good Chats. But you know, that's what live streams are for. So yeah, basically I said welcome everybody. Hey, so what have you been up to? It's been a busy week for me. Hopefully it's been a busy week for you, Heather. You headed to Melbourne. What's going on there? And yeah, what are we going to do this week? Mike, I mentioned to you as well. I mentioned in the bit where nobody was able to hear what the hell I was talking about. But thank you, because I heard it loud and clear through the chat. One day I'll get it right. Yeah, a few people did turn up to the 1:30 session, and we'll talk more about that presentation as well. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what you've been up to, obviously. So tell us in the chat what's been happening. The presentation that I did down at the Railway Museum on Sunday, that was a cool project. And we'll look at some of the videos that they're playing on the big screen down there. We'll look at one of the drone videos that I kind of selected to watch this evening. And I had a question as well. And it's Graham Dory who might be able to answer this, I think. But any one of the Brains Trust as such might be able to answer it as well. And so I put these questions out early. I'm reading about home and away signals when it comes to railway yards. So when I'm reading about, you know, train turning up at an away signal, I think that's the term for it. What's happening there? And when they're turning up at a home signal, like what's the deal with these, you know, home and away signals? Somebody enlighten the chat as to what's happening there. I'll be honest. I mean, I've got Line Clear, the book there, which is all about railway signals, but it's so deep into railway signals that it kind of doesn't really explain the basics. Yes, Heather, thank you for the request. No, that's all right, Wilbur. No problem. It's all good. It was a really good project, man. I think there's a lot of potential there. Good to hear that you're here into Moonta. Moonta's such a cool spot, and it's got a ride-on train. So, at any rate, home and away signals, what are they? That's the question I wanted to ask about. Then we've got plenty of time, so I'm going to go through some of the images that I'm collecting of the up-and-coming Gawler Line Railway. This might answer your question, Heather. And then I've got a fun fact, because Andy's been asking me some really cool questions, and I felt really caught out when I couldn't think of a fun fact on the spot last week. So I came up with a fun fact. Then there's a few other things to talk about, and then there's Book of the Week that comes with a cool story as well. Oh, g'day, Kane. Welcome aboard. And we'll talk about that. Yes, we'll segue right into that one. So the presentation down at the museum, I'm so impressed to see the setup that they've got down there. And there was only a few people that turned up, right, but they were some of the most interesting people to me, and some of the best supporters as well. And so to have Bob Sampson in the room, who I could just turn to and ask questions of, was a great little sort of Q&A, sort of even just me Q&Aing Bob Sampson during the video as well. So I think what we decided, g'day Pete, welcome aboard. I think what we decided is, rather than just a sort of watch the videos as a block and then try and do a Q&A after, we're going to try and you would appreciate this too, Zach, having been so helpful on the day. You would appreciate this too. We need to sort of set up a format where it's going to be a bit easier to pause the video and ask questions and get answers that relate directly to parts of the video. And so I think we're working towards a format that'll be more entertaining. And, you know, how do you break up a 45-minute video with all of that? Oh, g'day, Max. Welcome aboard. Oh, God, here we go. You've gone straight straight deep into it again with permissive and absolute signaling. But I love your work. Thank you for coming on board. Mr. Jacksonus, welcome aboard too. Thank you for coming, my friend. The presentation could work up into different and more interesting formats that are a bit more engaging. But I learned a lot from meeting some of the people that came down as well, and come down to the museum, and I enjoyed meeting all the people around the museum as well. I wonder, Zach, whether or not there could be some other way to remote control the Stream Deck or something like that, similar to the way you just buy your page turning remote controls for when people do death by PowerPoints on laptops and on projectors and stuff like that. Sort of coming from the more of the corporate presentation world, that kind of stuff, I guess, rather than just the static sort of play video type thing. But the Stream Deck setup that you guys have come up with down there with the Stream Deck Nano and the box that you've got there is bloody brilliant. So what we'll do now is, I should have queued this up, although probably not the way things are going tonight. Hamilton Miniature Railway, man. Hamilton's such a beautiful town. I really like Hamilton. We'll play the video. That is one of the videos playing down at the National Railway Museum. Some of my original Balhana shots there, van couple. And that's the Burford Hill Road Bridge, just a little bit up on the road between Mount Torrens and Birdwood. Go check it out sometime. There's a rail trail over that bridge now. Still got the filters on it, so you can probably hear me. This was back in the day when I was really just making music videos. I hadn't really gone so deep into history by this point in time. Yeah, Roger. You know what, Heather? Mine flies bent too. I'm constantly adjusting shots by 2 degrees in editing. Constantly adjusting them by 1 or 2 degrees. It's a common thing with DJI drones. Yeah, no worries, Heather. It means I have to zoom in a little bit as well, but it's burned into my head actually, just zoom in to 104% and bend it and rotate it by 2 degrees just to take the bloody, make the horizon level. And you'll see it in some of the Marie shots that I did where I forgot to do that. And I had the gimbal set to FPV mode when I was filming for most of that trip as well, unbeknownst to me that it was putting in about a 4-degree tilt on all the shots. Thanks, Clayton. Spotto. The music that I use for the videos, and that's one of the things I'm thinking about at the moment as I'm sort of thinking about what it is that I do in these videos for the grant application. Music is one of those things, right, that drives a lot of understanding of a piece of media and really adds to a piece of media. And recently I have started to back away from some of the edgier sort of dubstep stuff that I used to do, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm an old electronic music fan, so I'd be loving to use a lot more trance music and stuff like that, but I'm also not wanting to alienate the audience. I haven't. Do you know, O'Malley? Yeah, in the not necessarily in the country, but I have come across plenty of people sleeping rough. There's people sleeping rough out the back of the old railway lines at Murray Bridge. There's people sleeping rough out at Balhana. There are people that are sleeping rough. So yeah, there is tons of scrap metal out there. You know, Mr. Jacksonus, this is one of the reasons why I'm a bit enigmatic. I don't follow any football team. The music I spend an awful lot of time on, and you've heard me say this over and over again, right? But music, hearing is our dominant sense. So you can get away with visual mistakes far easier than you can get away with audio mistakes. Which is why I appreciate it when you guys tell me if I've got it too loud or too low, because that is a really obnoxious way to turn people off, and the number one way. Brian would understand this too. Welcome aboard, Brian Wilson. You would understand this too, and I definitely want my music to be different. You go back to my earlier videos, I was definitely using dubstep music, because I was very heavily into electronic music. I say it again, all forms. You know, a bit of hip hop and of course rock and stuff like that, but you know, mainly a bit of a dance music kid. So yeah, I wanted to do it differently and not have, you know, the twangy Aussie explorer music and not get too far into that stuff, because everybody uses that music. So I spend a little bit more time digging a little bit deeper to find different stuff. Yeah, lo-fi is excellent. There's a lot of lo-fi out there, and some of the synth stuff as well. I try and avoid AI music as much as I can, although that's becoming more and more difficult, because there's actually a lot of pretty decent AI background music out there now. But back in these days, I was actually searching pretty hard for tunes. Oh, hey, Wilbur. The Barossa Valley is done for now, probably until, although I will be heading up to Gawler soon, so maybe we'll segue into that bit in a minute. That's a really good question, Heather. Lo-fi's got all those scratchy tones in them. It's music that's not been mixed through mixers and filters and all that other kind of stuff. It's meant to have a really sort of record player kind of feel to it and be very down tempo. Is one way to describe it, and I find it to be a good background music, but at the same time, a whole video of lo-fi, you know, after 45 minutes of lo-fi, I'm not trying to put people to sleep. So yeah, all right, we'll end the magic window there for now, and we'll go to the slideshow as I talk a little bit. Heather, when you said before about am I going to do something on the Adelaide Railway, so I'm having this conundrum at the moment, right? I did the Adelaide to Tailem Bend Railway, where I started at the station there. Yeah, dude, definitely, Van Couple, definitely. So keep an eye out for. We'll keep listen out for future projects as well. You know, because I do tend to plan these things a fair bit in advance, and maybe across this weekend I'll be heading out to Gawler, because I'm going to do. I did the Adelaide to Tailem Bend line, and I spent a bit of time talking about Adelaide railway station there, and I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about the. Yeah, no worries. See you, Mr. Robinson. Thanks for coming on board. And I talked a fair bit about Adelaide Railway Station there, and now I'm going to do the Adelaide to Gawler line with the same treatment. I'm actually even thinking of doing it entirely by public transport, catch the bus in and out, catch the train everywhere, because it's possible with that one. So I've got about 70 odd photos already of all the stations along the Adelaide to Gawler line. Oh, g'day, Boeing expert. Welcome aboard. Yeah, we started Adelaide Railway Station. And how much of the story do I tell to begin this video? How many times do I tell the story of Adelaide Railway Station again and again and again at the beginning of each video? So I'm working on a bit of a script that doesn't, repeat what I said last time, essentially. The small branches... yeah, no, good night to Mr. Jacksmith. Thank you for coming on board, sir. We're all good, Bowen Expert. HC in the house, the railway line next to Mount Barker. Yeah, the one going to Mount Barker Junction. I covered that one. One of the earlier ones that I did, actually. Certainly could always do these earlier videos better, but... yeah, that one I did, probably a couple of years back. So, scroll back through the history, man, and let me know what you think in the comments. Hey, Salisbury Council Hub has a station display going back years. Thank you, Lyle. I'm literally just going to add that to my task reminders right now. Sound Council Hub. Yeah, so it's in the hub. Okay. All right, cool. And I will calendarize that for maybe even tomorrow. See how we go. That's a really interesting point that you make there too, Heather. Oh yeah, Wilbur, that's right. You asked me about the locos, right? RXs are the most ubiquitous locos. And I'm only just getting used to locos and stuff like that, to be honest with you. But I love the 520 class. There you go. In my opinion, that's the most stylish, the most sleek, the most art deco. It's kind of when making these things look like art was at its peak in the, oh God, what would it have been, Max, when the 500 class were made. Beautiful, sleek engines. The ones that you couldn't even tell were a steam engine, but they were a steam engine, for people who don't understand it. But that's really interesting, Heather. You're thinking about delving deeper into Adelaide Railway Station. And there is so much imagery out there, right? And anyway, we're stuck on this one image right now, and we're looking at one of the first images of Adelaide Railway Station. And again, I would love to do a video on just about anything in my then and now style, to be honest with you. And these photos would certainly be included in that. So let me just find the image controls and we can get on with this. This is 76 photos, right? I'm not sure how we're going to get through it. And I've actually sent off a request for another 70 odd photos to the NRM. They are, I know, right? Here is the only known image of the original railway bridge over the River Torrens. It's a drawing, of course, because there were an awful lot of cameras around in the early 1856, 1855, when this bridge was built. Drawing things was far more the way to go. Then we have, this is sometime in 1911 when the second bridge was built, when it was replaced. The bridge story gets really confusing, and I'll go through that in this one, because They then swapped the old new bridge onto the other line and then built a new bridge for the other line. There's more into that story as well, like bridge swaps and stuff, and how we got to where we are today. There's another shot of the original Adelaide railway station. If you look deeply into that, station's right down in the corner. It's interesting to note too that the station always had that set of stairs. It was always down, a couple of stories from North Terrace. In the original days, it was only one story down, but there you go. There's another one of Adelaide railway station. We're moving into the early 1900s now. Now we're moving to 1925, which is the one we've got today. From a few different angles. Haven't fully sorted all these images yet, obviously, so there's another one of the originals. There's the original hall. Back when on the left there were all the platforms. There's all the entrances to the platforms when the platforms were open air. So I'm looking forward to contrasting that photo with what it looks like today. Another photo of, this is the earliest photo of the Adelaide railway station looking towards the yards, but you couldn't really tell. Another one in the late 1800s, and they added on a bit to it back then. There's a street scene from outside the station. Okay, so this is the folder. This is coming from the folder of all my photos, and not the first word that I use in all my photos is the name of the location, so it's easier to alphabetize and to follow when you've got 140 photos. This is James Martin and Co factory in Gawler. So naturally, Gawler. The other end of the line is the next one, and there was, I don't know, right off the top of my head, I don't know, there was tens of railway locomotives made in Gawler, and they wheeled them down the middle of Murray Street in Gawler, and there was a tram line which doubled as a bit of a railway line and a transfer line to Gawler railway station. So I'm going to go explore that right in the middle of town there, where I think it's a Woolworths now, and it still keeps the old facade of some of the old factories, but that is the first place where they made locomotives for the South Australian Railways natively here in South Australia. Well, at least I think it was anyway. Okay. Maybe Kilburn's next. Oh, I don't know. This one's the Tube Mills factory out at Islington. That's interesting. Boeing expert, the North Coast line. So Tube Mills is actually mostly still there. It's like a cleanaway depot. A bit further at the top of the image is Kilburn and the workshops there, and that's essentially where Costco and Target and all of that are now. A bit further towards the top of the image. This one is looking down at... It's a soap factory. I'm not sure it's Burford's soap factory. Yeah, I will be doing the Alberton and Port lines as well. So I guess each time, Heather, maybe I'll take a deeper dive into Adelaide each time I look at it, because it's going to have to start in Adelaide another few times. We're looking towards... okay, the line to Adelaide goes in the top left, and the line to Gawler is in the bottom right, and veering off to the right shot there is the line from the main North line out to Port Adelaide, and essentially what the swamps and all of that industrial area out at Wingfield looks like now. That's the best way to describe that. That's Wingfield, basically. Here's the Dry Creek Smithfield Station, where the Dry Creek ammunition tramway came off from the railway line. So this is the collection of photos for the Adelaide to Gawler line over the years, right? Oh God, I forget what that station is. Dry Creek, believe it or not. You go to Dry Creek these days, and it's probably one of the most horrible environments you could possibly think of. But it's not, Dry Creek wasn't necessarily great, but yeah, there you go. Things were kind of a little bit more stylish back then. This is looking off the Bridge of Elizabeth towards the north. This was Elizabeth South Station back in the day. This also was Elizabeth South Station back in the day. This is Elizabeth Station back in the 80s. Having trouble. I think some of the images might still, I've not still named properly, so we're still jumping around a little bit. So we're up around Elizabeth here. This is... I'm trying to think now. I think this might be Chitter. We're getting there. This might also be Chitter. This is Gawler back in the day. There wasn't too. Yeah, I think they used bullocks and stuff more than horse-drawn tramways and stuff up around Coffs. Where was this steel fabrication works? I'd be interested in learning more about that, because I always learn more from the chat room than I think I'd probably hand out. So yeah, I love learning, and I hand out these. So one of the things I can't find is an original image of the Gawler railway station. This is the Gawler railway station that was built in the 1870s, right off the top of my head. But it replaced an original building, which, like most good railway buildings, burnt down. But the original building was obviously built in 1857. And it was interesting to explore that phenomenon of railway buildings burning down. That might be worth a video one day. Why do all the old railway buildings burn down? My favourite railway station in the Barossa. Hey, John, welcome aboard. Thanks for popping up, man. Luggy 111's rolled in a bit late. Hey, some weeks you might even miss me. I'm not still going after 35 minutes. I'm not so sure whether it's insurance. I think there's just such easy vandalism targets, which is why obviously a lot of railway buildings now get removed as well. I did read that somewhere. But my favourite station up in the Barossa Valley is definitely Angaston. There's so much insight, actually, for me, believe it or not, into architecture and design as it sort of progressed away from the old stone buildings and all of that kind of stuff. So I find it really, really interesting. And I know I said it before too, Boeing, my favourite steam train is the 500 class, the 520s. Gabby at the NRM, Gabby is the business manager at the National Railway Museum, and she's been dealing with my request for images. Although I've got to give some credit to Andrew Peters as well, who spent a lot of time in the archives with me. And we are working on a way that we can work with footage in the future as well, and perhaps we can work at different ways of me getting access. But no, the numbers of the images aren't too much stressed, the rest of us are volunteers, right? So and we rely on these images, and I don't put any sort of time frame on deadline on when I need these images by. I realise that we're working with volunteers and an organisation that has a very tight budget. Angaston is such a beautiful town. Well, there you go, Van Couple. Heather, you need to go and investigate Angaston Railway Station. It is an awesome, beautiful place. How's the new Boambi Creek footbridge? Yes, I wanted to go back there and check that out, actually, when I was up there last. I wonder if it's still the same as the old one, though, where you basically have to spend most of your time watching out for the dog shit. Because the beach across the other side there, of course, is a dog walking beach. Hey, JM, I went to school in Sydney, bro. So that's where I get some of my Sydney accent from. Western Sydney all the way. And so when I came to Adelaide in my teens, we all thought we were basically moving to the country. Um, um, it's abandoned. The inside's not accessible. It's a well looked after station, so the inside wouldn't be accessible unless somebody here knows somebody. But yeah, no, it's a beautiful precinct. The old sheds and stuff like that. Um, Watch out for the quicksand. Blacktown, no, Grey Stains and Padstow. Hardcore Western Sydney. Yeah, you should do it, Heather. Check it out. This is North Gawler. Some people try to say it was called Gawler North, but I'm pretty sure it's only ever been North Gawler, or then it was Gawler Central. And so this is looking for the King Street Bridge at Gawler Central, which used to be able to drive over, but now you can only just walk over. This is a train running down the centre of the main street of Gawler, which will fit in very nicely when that part of the narrative comes along. There's some of the old sightings at Gawler. Interestingly enough, I've reached out to the Gawler History Group, the Salisbury History Group, I think, yeah, so far, via their email addresses on their webpage and had no response. I might actually poke them a bit on Facebook. Would probably be a better option. Yeah, I know, right? The cow catchers are damn cool. Newspaper stories, sometimes I save that. This was the main street of Gawler when the governor arrived, and it looks like it was a really rainy day. So I found that photo really interesting because it conveyed, and I don't know why I'm so interested in this, but I'm always interested in what was the weather like in these black and white photos. Good old Beverly Hills and Narwee. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah. Look, the Western Sydney crew's coming back together. Did I go to school with you? And please feel free to ask questions like how to get turmeric stains off bench tops as well, because outdoors type is for everyone. This is the work train for the Barossa Valley line. James Martin and Co. James Martin, I don't know whether it was the same James Martin and Co., but they built some of the railway line. And this is their work train, which was called Gawler, funnily enough. And I think it's somewhere just outside of Gawler. Flags fly differently in the old days. Let me go back and have a look at that. Yeah, they definitely do fly differently on the old days. Look at that. You can tell. You saw the drawing before of the engine coming out of the shed in Gawler, and this is the image of the same thing on the right. There is the main street. I think right in foreground there, that's Calton Street. Look it up on a map and just see how much has changed. Yeah, there's another cow catcher photo. Outside one of the many pubs, so that'll make the photo easy to locate. The old shelter shed at Gawler, which has been the subject of some political toing and froing, which has been removed, and they wanted to reinstate it, but that's probably not going to happen. These were some old wheat silos. So it's really interesting on the Adelaide to Gawler line when you get out to Salisbury and to Gawler, just how rural those stations were to begin with the mills and the silos and the chaff things. Can't think of the word for it. The engineers, the merchants, the foundries, the blacksmiths, all the stuff that was around there, and obviously that progressed over time. I mean, if you go to Salisbury Station now and what's now Centrelink, for example, that used to be some beautiful old, I won't call them sheds, beautiful old buildings all throughout that area as part of the station yard. And so much has gone, yeah. Another shot of the yards at Gawler. I was hoping to get in touch with the people who did these photos, Gawler History Group and all of that. Hopefully, it'd be great if somebody could actually stand with me and take me and the viewers through where things used to be, so we could stand at a location and say this used to be over there, this used to be over there, and this used to be over there. It'd be a lot easier. Cows purchased separately. That's a great question, Van Couple. Why are there always palm trees at these stations? I know that station masters were sometimes responsible for keeping up grounds and things like that. And those palm trees were being spread around everywhere in the early days of South Australia. And I wonder if there's a reason why. I'll have to look into that. I'm just writing it down now because it could be worth researching for next week. The key markets for all the wheat infrastructure were scrap metal merchants, but the key markets for the wheat, I mean, obviously in the very early days, wheat was bagged and handled by hand, so it was much more labour intensive and infrastructure intensive than it is today. That's a great idea, Heather. Yeah, I certainly use them as landmarks. Yes, they are strange things to look into, but they're my things to look into. Nobody else is looking into, so I'll do it. Another one at Gawler. This was the sand carters at Gawler. Carting sand out of the southern Barossa Valley was a huge industry back in the day. That's great. Thank you. And yes, Ron, you just reminded me that is probably one of my favourite vistas is Marilden Station and its palm trees out there in the middle of the sea of wheat. This is a map of the old tramway from Gawler Station going right up to its terminus, which is basically where Coles is today, near Gawler Central, and all the little sidings that used to come off of it. I just looked for a map of the Gawler tramway and did my Google thing, and I found one. So I'm going to reanimate that into my usual format. Some of the trolley cars that used to go on it as well. End of shift at James Martin and Co., where they built those trains. So again, just next to the monument there would be the small opening where the trains came out. No worries, Wilbur. Thanks for coming on board, mate. We'll see you next week. There's always the replay tomorrow as well, mate. Cheers. Another one of the Murray Street tramway going through there. This is Gawler Racecourse platform, another platform now sitting disused, just short of Gawler actually. Here is the Worth Brothers circus van. There's another subject worth exploring. I have no idea what the number of coins would be, Justin, but feel free to have a go at it. Chat room, or maybe we can all go down to the Railway Museum next time they're running the Red Hens, and we'll run the experiment. There was a huge RAF base at Malala, a training base, and I'm not sure whether I mentioned it or not in the Salisbury to Red Hill line. I mentioned it, I think, maybe briefly, and there was, the leave trains that used to go to and from Malala would, have 500-600 trainees on the train going back to Adelaide for a bit of a party. There are more photos of this circus train out there. I'm trying to think where I got them from. Playford's Past is another one. Hey, John, if you're interested in all this history too, Playford's Past is a really interesting one. They are similar to, actually, Coff's Collections, Noel, where they have some great things that don't always come up in Google searches. Okay, I've forgotten what this one is. This is a train, I think, somewhere out near Salisbury back in the day, and I just wanted to use, and I think I might use this one to illustrate how rural and flat and empty the country was between Adelaide and Salisbury, and it's, obviously suburban, very, very suburban now. it was difficult for me to illustrate the freight yard that used to be just south of Islington, just south of Regency Road. There was a freight yard there where they're building that Prospect 1838 development, if you know Adelaide. And there was a really large rail yard there that persisted even until I was in Adelaide, which was 88, pretty sure, when I came, 87 when I came to Adelaide. And there were still remnants of the cranes and all of that stuff and the rails in place down there in that corner of Regency Road. And then Islington Workshops, which is to the north there, will sort of take up a whole section of the video. Or when I say a whole section, I mean a few minutes of the video in itself, because that place basically was its own suburb when it was in its heydays. Yeah, that's right, Lyle. And it was a little difficult to find something that gave us some solid evidence, right? Because there was actually a lot of photos, but not all of them actually say, well, you can't actually tell where they are, right? So that's difficult sometimes. I got this one from an ArcGIS map viewer, and I'll be honest with you, I've lost the link to it since then, and I have no freaking idea how to get back to it. Somebody actually gave me the link, and you can get all the historical map data. So if somebody knows of that map viewer, and I've looked for it, and there's a whole bunch of map viewers out there and map data out there, but none of it really marries together or really works like this link did. And thank you, Boeing Expert. Yes, yep, that's great. If you want to go back 20 years or so. But this one, uses a lot of aerial photography. I have found some other aerial photography links as well, but there's nothing as good as this one. But isn't that always the way? Somebody sends you the awesomest link and you think, I really got to save that. And then you don't. Oh, g'day, James. Welcome aboard. Thank you for this. French government gifted SA Riverland date palms so that start spread. ABC article. So, I'll read the article. It'd be interesting to know whether or not it was for the dates or not, and how much of it, that's interesting, relates to perhaps Afghans and Cameleer history and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why I link Afghans and dates with Cameleers, but it just feels like that might work. So, I'll give that a shot at some stage. Here's inside of one of the halls down at Islington. Here is the old station that used to be at Islington, right out the back of the workshops there. Does not exist anymore. Oh, God, what's this one? I think this is something like Cuddler, right off the top of my head. Obviously, this is North Adelaide. North Adelaide again. Bonus fact, because this is not the fun fact that I had saved up for before, but North Adelaide Railway Station is the fourth oldest surviving railway building in Australia. Oh, g'day, Hookstagram. Welcome aboard, mate. Yes, AC in the house. Yeah, no, I agree with you. These lines, the Port Adelaide line was, I think, the second oldest railway line in Australia, or the third oldest. I missed it by that much with St Kilda and Melbourne, I think. And the Gawler line was a close third or fourth. And so that I was astonished actually that this is the fourth oldest railway building in the country. So we'll have a good look at that in the video. I have a feeling the first, oh God, well, I don't usually like Googling things, but we'll do that because it's interesting. I have a feeling we would have just been pipped by Victoria. Well, I guess that could actually, now I'm looking at the result, that could actually get really messy because the first railway building privately owned in Newcastle in 1831. The first steam railway was in 1854, the Melbourne and Hobson's Bay Railway, and the Outer Harbour, oh sorry, not Outer Harbour, Port Adelaide Railway line came along in 1856, I think. Or maybe, no, later in 1854, so it was pipped by that much. Just, let's not talk shit, let's just look that up. Um, yeah, it was opened in 1856, so I was right. There we go. Now I go back to see questions and stuff. North Adelaide into a recording studio. Do you know what, Brian? They could turn North Adelaide station into whatever they wanted and it'd probably still fail. So that would make, the Melbourne to Hobson's Bay Railway line probably the first official railway building because, they were doing tramways for a couple of decades before that. It's not a silly question, but no, I don't do modelling. I'll leave that to the experts. I'm far more the sort of, overview kind of storytelling, beautiful images kind of guy. Although a lot of modelers do use my videos for reference. Thanks, Kingsley. Works, that's right. Someone was telling me about freight trains and works trains that used to go from Mitcham through to Islington. That's right. Bob was telling me about a freight train that used to leave from Mitcham. I didn't know that Mitcham would have ever had freight trains leaving from there. Yeah, so I guess you're looking at it now, Noel, and it's a tricky question, isn't it? Like a lot of things in history. Oh, look, there's a train somewhere. Right, I'm at 61 or 76 now, so I'm starting to lose my mind with this thing, and that's why videos take so long, because I'm going to have to sort through 170 of the buggers. Ovingham Station, as boring as it seems, I'm going to cover them all. The little Parabridge when it was first built. The railway crossing at Salisbury. The railway crossing at Salisbury many years ago. We'll contrast that with what it looks like today. The old station building at Salisbury. This is Smithfield again, I'm pretty sure, when it used to have a siding. This is Smithfield again when it looked nice. This is Smithfield when it stopped looking nice. This is looking down towards the... looking south towards where the munitions railway off to the Smithfield magazine went. Forgotten that one. Smithfield again. Torrens Bridge Station, which I shared, and that might relate to your question too. I shared that on Facebook. I had to go at recolouring that one, and I did a pretty good job. But not sure I'm going to go trying to recolour 100 odd photos for a video. Behind this shot is the Torrens Bridges. So this station lasted for 2 years, between like 1857 and 1859, because the Torrens Bridge at that time was a single line. And so this was essentially like the junction station for the Gawler and the Outer Harbour lines at the time. I have some other images of that, and I'm not sure whether they might come up in a minute. And so this station disappeared. North Adelaide Station, as far as I can understand it, was built via the... Let me have a look at my notes, because I got some notes on that, of course. Yeah, Adelaide Gawler. No, it doesn't actually say why it was opened. I think it might have been again by petition, by rich North Adelaide people, but it actually had sidings and a woodyard. So I can imagine that perhaps it also served a somewhat sort of industrial purpose, because yes, it did have sidings and a woodyard. And of course, North Adelaide people always get what they want. So this is the bridge as well, looking from... You'd be in Benithan Park. on the railway side, obviously, somewhere near the Bunyip Trail. Um, and you're looking towards Adelaide in that shot. And there's the bridge, obviously, on the left. And what as the sign remains at that point in time for the Torrens Bridge station. So that's a ghost station now, really is. Lost to the mists of time, and that one, it's the last one, and I'm just going to throw out a wild guess and call it Cuddler again. So there you go. Thanks for sticking with me through that 76 image haul. Maybe I'll do the next 70 images, which I've gleaned from a Control F search and find of all the related images in the giant spreadsheet that's available at the National Railway Museum. And if you enjoy spreadsheets, then the National Railway Museum's master file of images is downloadable, and you can spreadsheet your little heart out. Right, what's next? Transition out of that. Gone. Thanks, Jeremy. That's tough work getting through all 76, though. So, the fun fact for the week, now that I'm going to do this, the fun fact, because I'm researching the Garn and all of this, and those of you who follow me on Facebook too, follow me on Facebook for a bit more background detail and a bit more context and stuff that just fleshes out in a more social way what I do here on YouTube. So go check that out, except for Justin, because he got banned. And yeah, the fun fact, right, as I was doing this research and I was listening to the Bill Sumbris, I think it's how it's pronounced, podcast at the National Railway Museum, and he talked about the maximum speeds of the trains that went along the old Garn line between Murray and Alice Springs, and the maximum allowed speed of the goods train was 17 kilometres an hour, and the maximum allowed speed of the passenger train, the Garn, at the time was 27 kilometres an hour. So it's worth bearing in mind that we're talking 500 or 600 kilometres of railway here. And that definitely would have made it all the more unique, I guess you could say, by the fact that you essentially, we all know what traveling at 25 kilometres an hour is like. It's such a shame, Kingsley, that Clipsaw is gone and Gerard Industries and all of that. Now the Bowden, you know that, the Bowden residential precinct, which they can't seem to finish. So that's a real shame that all of that's gone. And if people wanted to explore that, there are still some remnants of some of the old warehouses and whatnot down there. So that's the fun fact. In other news, this is my last week of being a volunteer media coordinator for Walking SA. Circa 1968 and 9, Garn down to 12 miles per hour. That'd still be around 20 k's an hour, wouldn't it? I can't do the roughly. That's a conversion in my head. The other interesting thing about the Garn as well was the reflection was made in one of the references that I've been reading, that not only did they essentially have to give up on bridges in a lot of cases, and they just relayed the track over the riverbed and then just rebuilt it every time it washed away. But also, when they moved to diesel trains, they were no longer able to just drive the trains over some of these washaways. Apparently, the height of steam engines meant that occasionally they could get away with just going through the floodwaters, as opposed to... See you, Boeing expert. Thanks for coming on board. It's getting late over there in New South Wales. See you next week. And so that was an interesting thing. They could just drive steam trains through floods sometimes in a way that they wouldn't be able to drive diesels. So that's the end of 2 and a bit years working with Walking SA, posting pretty much almost every single day, and developing a brand and developing my knowledge around how to develop a brand, basically, and how to work with Facebook, and I've kept my knowledge up to date. But for some reason... it definitely beats walking up there, that's for sure. But for some reason, I wasn't really applying that to my own social media accounts, and I've gone, you know what? it's time to start applying that work to some of my other social media accounts. I think just some of the things that I was hoping to get, some of the doors and networks I was hoping to build out of Walking SA and into some of my old career there never really eventuated. And there's a shit ton more stuff happening right now with what's happening here on YouTube and what's happening on my own social media accounts. So we're going to ride that wave, baby, and we're going to go all the way. Big plans for next year, maybe even some big plans for later this year. We'll just have to see how the budgets materialise. But like I said, I could be back up in New South Wales and Queensland sooner than I think, and maybe enjoy some weather for a change. Who knows what's the weather like up in New South Wales and Queensland? It's just become bloody cold down here in South Australia, but thank God we are finally getting the rain, and it's great to have this constant rain, and you can just see that it will be bringing a whole lot of relief to a whole lot of people all around South Australia. I don't know if Andy, if you're still out there as well, how things going down in the southeast down there. Everybody's obviously really on edge with the drought situation down here in South Australia. So yeah. Now the trip that I'm planning for next year, should I be successful in getting a grant to do so, is along the old Garn line. And so I've been very busy the last couple of weeks working on itineraries, poring over maps, poring through research materials, reaching out to all sorts of people and seeing what's possible. And planning. And thank you, Noel. I appreciate that. I want to, run. I'd love to run a garden railway one day, John. I just don't have the fingers or the patience anymore for tiny trains. The 165 for the month in Western Australia as well. That's heaps more than we're getting here, but we're getting enough, so it's nice. And O'Malley's up in Moomba. It's nice and wet up there. Yeah, I see you've got the N scale van couple. God, that is tiny. I'd need tweezers. I'd just be breaking stuff left, right, and centre. So yeah, I went to the library and got this book. Hang on, let me get my book filter thing, otherwise known as a sheet of A4 white paper. And now you'll actually be able to see the book. That's right, you did the Garn stuff too. And you know what, Noel? That's obviously one of the things about my projects is I want to be, as close to the beginning of the history of that line as I can be, and also get as close to today's contemporary history of the line as I can possibly get. So everything is worth it. Picked up that book, Jeremy Brown's book, and I went through it, right? This is an awesome reference book. Jeremy Brown doesn't, he doesn't really wax lyrical on stuff. He really does tell the story very succinctly and very well. Little bit of information there on each one, but he breaks it down to point-to-point directions, including really detailed directions, tripometers, how far to travel past gates, or where to find this and that and the other, with images, the permissions that you need, the exact distances. I was literally amazed. Is that your channel that you've got, John? I'll look it up, man. I will be back to Farina, right? Because this book's going to guide me all the way through, right? And this goes from Port Augusta up to Alice Springs. But you can see there, one of the sections, Kurtamerka to William Creek, for example. Maps, excellent, proper topo maps, which I've got a whole bunch of topo maps coming. I'm big on topo maps, always have been. Distances, details, miles from Adelaide, kilometres from Port Pirie, points of interest. It gets right into detail here, like The bridge at Stewart Creek Bridge is a 50 times 23 foot and 7 times 42 foot spans for a total of 1,444 feet. So what kind of book could do better for one of my videos than that one? So I actually reached out to Bob Sampson at the museum and said, I need to get in touch with this guy. I need to run my itinerary past him because he's done it. And I need to know, I can plan so much from maps and images and from this book, but really I just want to go, is 5 days enough? Thanks, Bowen. I will send you an email, Noel. Thank you for reminding me because I did get in touch with Jeremy, and he's confirmed that my itinerary is, realistic. He's even suggested that he might actually want to come along. And he mentioned to me that he still has some copies of the book. And he mentioned there were copies at the Railway Museum, Pitchy Ritchie Museum Bookshop in Quorn. And I'll open up the email and find out what the other one. I'm getting my maps from outbacktravellers.com.au. This is one of the old, I used to know them as the old TJM Outback Track Guides. There's a bunch of Outback Track Guides, but I just knew them as the TJM one when I had shops that had them in stock because I had big advertising for TJM. But outbacktravellers.com.au is the site, and you'll see what I mean there. These are people, again, who have done it and who've made really detailed kind of maps. Yeah, the kind of ones that you want to use your tripometer to know exactly where you are. But Jeremy suggested to me as well that it would be ideal to do the trip with 2 4-wheel drives. I'm like, I can't afford 2 4-wheel drives, man. So lucky he's got his own. Where are we? Where did he say? The NRM bookshop sold out. If it helps you, Noel, there's copies at Quorn Station, the Pitchy Ritchie bookshop, and the ARHS bookshop in Sydney. There you go. There's the inside line on where the remaining copies of that book are. Either purchased directly through his website, Jeremy Brown. I think he mentioned that you could get it from his website, which is interesting because everybody said it wasn't available, but he's just pointed out where it's available. I hope you got all that. But send me an email if you need to be reminded. That's entirely cool. I did Van Couple. That's interesting. I approached quite a few people to find vehicles that would get me particularly the section from Udnadatta to Alice Springs. You go off the Udnadatta track at that point. And I found one of the few hire companies, Adventure Rentals, because all the mainstream rental companies, particularly RV companies, won't even hire you anything to take that track. So it's really expensive as well. It's getting close to $600 a day from this company that specifically will allow me to take the Mount Dare track and some of these other roads between Udnadatta and Alice Springs. So yeah, otherwise I probably would have taken a better camper, but at this stage it's just going to be it's just going to be a rooftop camper, thanks, Andy. We're getting into it this time. Sometimes you just go, sometimes you're just into it, and sometimes it's a bit cold, but no, and another one as well, if you want to write it down, because Jeremy Brown was one of the protagonists behind something called the Hand Gan. He and 3 others pumped Kalamazoo between Maree and Alice Springs to celebrate the end of the railway. Brian, if you've got some, please feel free to message me as Outdoors Type on Facebook, or if you don't have the Facebook, on my YouTube profile, right, if you click on my profile and you click on see more, you can uncover my email address there and send me an email. Doing it by camel particularly is actually a really intriguing idea, Kingsley. and that could be a progression of the idea in years to come. Uh, So, please, I'm always open to any support that people want to give me. I'm a one-man band here, and it's a lot of bloody work. Um, and, I found one 4x4 company that'll let me take that road, and I just went with them when I found them. So, but that doesn't mean that there might not be any others as well. So that is very cool. So that was the book of the week. Where have I gone? I'm not even on screen anymore. I'm looking at my emails. That was the book of the week. Borrow the book on Monday from the local library. Already organising with the author to buy a copy by Tuesday afternoon. Not bad, huh? All right. Well, that's it. What are we going to do? We're going to go do the 5-minute warning where I have to click my things. I have... this one might be for Jack Wayman too, who... if he's replaying, he's come a long way through the replay, man. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, there's a cheaper version of a Stream Deck out now, which might let me transition between scenes and effects a little quicker and a little more natively, and it might actually mean I remember to turn the mic on. This time I remembered to turn the mic on, right, in the mixer, but for some reason the mic had dropped out of the audio settings in the overall settings. Never a dull moment. What are we going to do? We're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of that. Some reason I think a double hump camel might be a bit more comfortable. I don't know. Maybe that's a poll for another day. I'm still none the wiser as to what the home and away signals mean. But, I'll leave that an open question for future streams. So, Kingsley, Noel, Zach, JK, come hither with Heather. I hope you're all packed for Melbourne now. It's getting late, hun. We've had the Van couple, Dan and Amber and Archer on board. Steve Klink, thank you for coming on board. All the people that probably dropped out of the stream in the first 5 to 10 minutes because I couldn't get my shit together. Thanks for coming on board for that short time. Wilbur, thanks for coming on board. Kane's Trains joining us. Pete Donaldson, Mr. Jaximus. Here's the romper room bit, Justin. Max Hobby in the UK. Always privileged to have you on board. Lyle, always a privilege to have you on board too, sir. Who else have we had on board tonight? O'Malley Tours 34 around the grounds from Moomba. We've had Brian Wilson 2024, the 2024 model, mind you. Luke's Fishing from the Northern Territory, thank you for coming on board. Go check out Luke's channel as well. He does a great job on the fishing videos and give me a window into what's going on authentically up in the Northern Territory. Michael Robertson, gone to bed. Thanks for coming on board. Boeing experts already gone to bed. HC in the house. Who else? Justin Miller, Luggy 777, rolled in late, but better late than never, brother. John Blakeney, thank you for coming on board and for some of your information and interacting with the stream for the first time tonight as well. Ron Boyton, always a pleasure. Ron Boyton does some beautiful photography as well, so look him up on the socials and around and about. Who else have we had on board tonight? We're getting right down to the bottom here. I've not yet, O'Malley, and if you want to send me a link to that as well, or what you're talking about there, please send it through on Facebook as well, because I am a reference munching machine at the moment, going through everything that I can. Noel, thank you. I appreciate everybody hanging around for that shit bit at the beginning, but that's kind of how you know it's an authentic outdoors type live stream, really. It's just chaos in the beginning. That it might have been a record actually for a, let's call it an in-studio live stream, JK. So yes, I do appreciate you noting that as well. If I missed anyone from saying good night and thank you for coming, I can only scroll back so far. So this has been Good Chats. It's been an excellent, hour and a quarter chat tonight. One of the longest ones. Um, and we do this every Wednesday night at 8:15 p.m. Sometimes they're a bit shorter, sometimes they're a bit longer. It just depends on what's been happening and what the vibe is. The vibe's been very good tonight. So thank you, everybody. Have a great week over the next week, and we'll see you again next Wednesday at 8:15. Peace out.